What would you do if you were on the bandstand on a jazz gig, for instance? You're just calling tunes and somebody says, well, let's do anthropology in the key of B, a half step up. Would you panic, or would you say, you know what, I actually totally know how to improvise in all of these different keys? So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, some strategies to improvise in different keys, and in some of the more difficult keys. The more traditionally difficult ones for jazz musicians are often the key of A, key of B, key of E, key of F sharp, things like that, D flat occasionally. And so I think it's something that you have to know how to do if you are going to be a professional musician. So I am so lucky to perform pretty regularly with one of the best tenor sax players to ever walk the planet. And there is nobody of his equal in this region of the country. I am not kidding. To get somebody of his caliber, you'd have to go to LA or San Francisco or New York to get a player like him. And I actually think he's from San Francisco. And so he is just, oh my God. And so I always have just a blast playing with him. And he loves playing with me too. And so we built up this relationship where, if he's playing with me or another really good pianist and a good bass player and a good drummer, he can call tunes in very strange keys. And so, there's been times where he's called rhythm changes a half step up in the key of B, or Cherokee in the key of B, or anything like that of that sort. And so he trusts me, and he trusts, his other piano players with whom he plays regularly to, that they can do this. And so that's so important, because you never know, you may run into one of the best sax players to walk the planet, and he calls rhythm changes in B, so it's just so really important skill. So with that anecdote out of the way, what are some ways to practice this and, get really confident? So I think the first thing you need to do is take the melody of the tune, whichever tune it is, and learn it in all 12 keys. That's the first step. So if it's anthropology, learn that in all 12 keys and be able to do it on demand. You could even have a friend sit next to you, say, play it in E, and then you play it in E, play it in A flat, just pick a random key, or if you have iReal Pro or the like, to practice with a backing track, you can have the backing track go up in half steps. I know iReal Pro, it's a very popular app on the App Store. It's about $20, and it can go up in half steps every chorus, and you can play along with your backing track, or have a friend play with a friend, if you're a bass player or somebody, and work on that, and just if they're comfortable doing it. And I always offer that to bass players, especially. I know a lot of bass players who are like, oh, I really want to get my chops up in the key of B, or in E or whatever. And so I'll invite them over here, and we spend a couple hours, and we'll just play tunes in all the weird keys. And it's so much fun. I so enjoy it. And so it's that's another way to do it. Have somebody here physically to do it. And I think that's it gives it a more natural, flow, in terms of improvisation. But if you don't have access to that, it's not a big deal. You can have a backing track on, or if you're a piano player, adding an extra layer to this challenge is play left-hand walking bass and play melody and solo, and then take that up. And so along those lines, so you could go up in half steps and then another layer is going up in fourths. Going up in fourths is actually a lot harder, at least for me, than going up in half steps. Because if I'm going up in half steps, then I'm playing the melody on the piano, and then I'm like, oh, it's just up a half step, and so it's not that hard for me personally to go up in half steps. What is hard for me is going up in fourths, especially from like F sharp B E, like that part of the cycle is the hardest, because those are all the really difficult keys, and you have a less frame of reference in terms of, well, where are the notes, relative to where the original key is. You have less less help from the instrument in terms of figuring that out. So I'd say going up in fourths is just excellent practice. And the other thing is just practice every day. Don't have a day where you don't play Anthropology in B, or any tune, and you don't even have to play the melody of the tune if it's just rhythm changes. If you're really wanting to focus on playing rhythm changes in B, play rhythm changes in B every day, and then just figure out your improvisation. And after a while, it'll take a long time. I'm not saying this is easy or that this is a fast process. Not at all. This will take a very, very long time, maybe even years. I mean, it took me, quite a long time. I can't put an exact number on it because I don't really remember, but it took me a very long time to learn how to improvise in strange keys like that. So just keep doing it. Oftentimes over the summer vacation, that's what I do. That's what I practice, because I'm not like, I don't have to learn a big band arrangement, and I don't have to do any of that since I'm not in big band over the summer. It's just like, I have all this time. Why not just practice soloing in B? So this summer, which is when I'm recording this video this summer, I don't think it'll be released until the fall, but that is what I've been doing, and I actually have noticed a lot of improvement even from the beginning of the summer. Now it is a little bit tricky, because then as soon as I go back to school, then it can become hard to sort of keep that momentum, because then it's like, oh well, I'm getting absolutely flooded with big band music and small combo music that I'm learning by ear, and classical pieces and all the non-music side of things, comparative politics and whatever. So I'm getting absolutely flooded with all that. And it's like, oh, I don't have time to do it. But if you have a moment, a couple months where you can really devote time every day to do it, absolutely. Now, unfortunately, I have tried to search up on YouTube things like that, like soloing in weird keys, and I can't find anything. And I'm really just trying to find recordings of people, jazz musicians or whoever, soloing in F sharp, because I want inspiration, and I have a lot of trouble finding them personally. So if you have found recordings of somebody soloing in a really difficult key, please leave that down in the comments. Oftentimes what I end up doing is just taking a CD of mine and saying, you know what, I'm going to transpose the whole thing up. And so I use Audacity, which has a great pitch shifting algorithm. I think it's actually the best pitch shifting algorithm I've ever come across. Even the one in Cubase isn't as good, which is why I use Audacity for recording the audio for these videos, because it's just so much easier to use than Cubase. But also the pitch shifting algorithm is actually worse in Cubase. So Audacity is a good way to go if you have like a record or something and you want to just transpose it up. There's an easy tools in software to be able to do that. Then you can say, you know what, I'm going to transcribe the solo off this. So that's what I've ended up doing a lot. So there are some ways to do that, with recordings and things. So with that wraps up this video about soloing in really difficult keys. Again, if you have any other suggestions, please leave them down in the comments. I'm sure there are like thousands of other ways to go about it that I don't even know about. So I would love to know and take inspiration from you. So if you have any questions, leave those down in the comments. If you'd like to see new videos every Thursday at 9 a.m., you should definitely subscribe to this channel, because I've noticed the YouTube metrics show that most of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So I hope you will subscribe to the channel so that you will get new videos in your feed every Thursday at 9 a.m. So with that, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.